Thank you so much, Honorable Dombo Emmanuel Rumala, the Director for Information and Public Relations of the NRM Party. Members of the media, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the party to thank you most sincerely for the work you've done during this hectic political time, but also passing on vital information to the community members, especially issues to do with the COVID-19. I want to thank media because there was a day where you really dedicated all news to COVID-19. I want to thank all the media houses. That was so good and very kind of you. And I want to thank everybody who made it happen. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the NRM fraternity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, though belatedly, but also a prosperous 2021 New Year. I want to thank my colleagues at the Secretariat, my staff, for the dedication. It hasn't been easy, but we have pushed on up to today and registering successes every minute. I want to thank the volunteers who have served this party, whether called upon or not called upon, whether you have been recognized or noticed, but you have served this party and served the country. I want to also take this opportunity to thank His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the National Chairman, and the Central Executive Committee, members of the National Executive Council, members of the National Conference, members of NRM and supporters for all the work you are doing, the tireless door-to-door campaign, person-to-person campaign, in an effort to make sure that we win the election next year, 2021. As it has always been a norm that we have to update the country on issues to do with the campaigns, especially for the presidential flag bearer. You are aware that we started with the Greater Luwero, that includes Luwero, Nakaseke, Nakasongola. We went to Lango, continued to Acholi, went to West Nile. We are also through with the Karamoja. We are through with the presidential candidate has already been in Teso, in Bugisu, in Sebei, in Buked, in Busoga, Ankole, Chigezi, in Toro, in Bunyoro, Renzori, and entered Buganda through Masin, through Mubende. After Mubende, we went to Mpiji, Masaka, Rakai, and we were ready to have our next meeting in Wakiso tomorrow for the whole of Wakiso. But we have seen on TV the chairman of the National Electoral Commission suspending electoral activities, especially public meetings, in some of the districts in this country. And one of the districts is Wakiso. One of the districts is Wakiso, where we are supposed to have our strategic meeting tomorrow. And then after that, we would have the following day, Tuesday, we would have a meeting in Mukono. But now these political meetings have been suspended, meaning we cannot also have our meeting tomorrow in Wakiso, also have one in Mukono, and also enter Kampala. So I want to state it clear, as NRM, law-abiding, we shall go by their guidelines. But I have to request them to put it in writing. It was a press conference. We want it in writing so that as a party, as participants, we expect them, we have issues to raise with them. Yes, the Electoral Commission has the powers to suspend or even stop campaigns, but a campaign program is usually a product of a consultative process. So I would have expected the Electoral Commission to have invited us, we as NRM and other parties and independents, to have had a discussion so that certain issues are also responded to as we agree on a way forward as their customers, but also as their consumers. So the issue is, in those particular areas, if we are going virtual, who is going to meet the cost? Because for those who could not meet the other cost, there was an alternative. Who would meet that cost? These are issues that would have been discussed with the Electoral Commission so that we agree, yes, they have the powers, but we also must look at the customer or the consumer. During the electoral process of 2015-2016, we had a presidential petition that was filed by Right Honorable Amama Mbabas. It was Amama Mbabas versus Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and the Electoral Commission. In the ruling, the judges had an issue to do with the state-owned media. State-owned media was given the responsibility that they must allocate candidates equal airtime. And then, Electoral Commission should ensure that candidates have access to state-owned media and to make sure every candidate gets airtime. These are the issues that Electoral Commission, after announcing this, would have been able to clearly spell out when should a candidate access state-owned media and what time, so that the public gets to know. We also want to know, in these areas where they've restricted the political activities, what happens to the other activities. But even then, if you have restricted political activities in these particular 12 districts that have been mentioned, if a candidate decided to carry people from that district to another district, is it allowed? Are you restricting only political activities in that district? Yet you have not restricted movements of people from that district to another. So these are issues that we need a discussion with us as stakeholders and the Electoral Commission. I think even scientists with the Ministry of Health, so that these are really answered and we find a way forward. Assuming we say we were supposed to have a meeting in Wakiso, but let's carry the leaders who are supposed to have for a meeting in Nakasongola. Is that against? And observe all the SOPs. We need them to come clear on this matter, because it must have a way forward for all of us as consumers of this. Issues to do, if restriction is only to political gatherings, what will happen at the barrios? Because we have seen barrios have gone back to following what they used to do, minus following the restrictions. What happens to that? So for us as NRM, as I said before, we are law-abiding and we shall follow, but we need a discussion. So I want to take this opportunity also as the chairperson of the iPod Council, the inter-party organization for dialogue, to request the Electoral Commission, I'm going to put it in writing, to cause a meeting so that there is a discussion and clarity for what one can term as way forward for we the political actors and consumers and customers of their products. Issues to do with the COVID COVID-19. Like we have always said, we are law-abiding. Our presidential candidate is the best example, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He has always followed the SOPs at the venues of the strategic mobilization meetings. So, still, there are those whose lives have been claimed by COVID-19. Those we know and those we don't know. But I want to request that we talk of a minute of silence to pray for Right Honorable Chirunda Chiveidinda, who passed on, who was the second Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, but also was a member of the Central Executive Committee, the chairperson of the Historical League. We have Dr. Sheikh Valonde, who was the chairperson of the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, who also passed on due to COVID-19. Also, I know we did pray for him, Sheikh Muzata, but it is okay if it does no harm to pray for him more. And not only those who have died because of COVID-19, but also other members of the community who have died, most especially the year that we are closing. Eternal life grant unto them, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May they rest in peace. May their souls rest in peace.
Amen.
The suspension of political meetings that was announced by the Electoral Commission, way forward for us as NRM, one, is to increase on our issues to do with virtual meetings, but also, most importantly, to intensify our mobilization of person to person, door to door, and peer to peer. So I call on all members, leaders at the village levels, leaders of the party, members of the different government institutions, but who are elected and are members of NRM, who are elected on the NRM ticket, the Youth Council, the Women Council, the Elderly Council, the PWD Council, the workers, please increase on person-to-person mobilization, door-to-door mobilization. But the chairman of the National Task Force, Alhaji Moses Chigongo, is convening the National Task Force tomorrow, so that after that we agree on a way forward, and I will issue a statement as Secretary General in relation to what has been announced by the Electoral Commission. I want to thank you, but I also want to congratulate Ugandans for having received the new Airbus as an additional fleet for the Uganda Airlines. I want to congratulate those areas where we've had major infrastructure projects that were commissioned by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the roads, the markets, the ferries, the factories. That is a sign that Uganda, NRM, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and all well wishers and all Ugandans, the future is about creating jobs for the youthful population, and also the future is about offering alternatives. Those who have big land go for agriculture under the intervention of the parish model by the government. Those who don't have big land, there is the option of the myogas, but those who can't fit in there must be jobs for both those who are educated professionals, but those also for those who are not educated, because they can still offer their manual labor. I thank you.